to Drive Time Podcast's special summer spotlight series, highlighting members of the class of 2023. The class of 2023, as many might know, started out in online classes in the pandemic of 2020, transitioned to in-person classes, and now are graduating. I'm Caitlin McMahon, a fellow 2023 graduate who's guest hosting this special series. Drive Time Podcast is usually hosted by Dylan Stafford, and I am stepping in for a few episodes. And so today I'd love to introduce Heather Scott, FEMBA 2023. Heather was nominated by our class to tell her story. She's a double Bruin, held multiple leadership positions at Anderson, and was on the winning GAP team, Global Access Program, which is our capstone program. Heather has a successful career in human resources and is currently a senior manager in compensation. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the very, very warm welcome.
I'm really excited to tell your story today. Your fellow classmates had nothing but nice things to say about you and their nominations, and we're excited to dig in.
Excited to be here.
So you're a double Bruin, right? What led you to UCLA the first round for undergrad? Let's start there and dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I looked primarily at a lot of California schools. I am from Orange County originally, and I am really close to my family. So going more than, a drive away seemed really tough at the time. And so I was looking all up and down all the UCs, and really my sister went to UCLA, so I was like, I'm not going to follow in those footsteps. I'm going to forge my own path. But then the second I stood there on campus and really it just felt like home. It just felt right. And I feel like all of the tour guides were walking around, and it just felt lively. And maybe it was the sunshine. I don't know what it was, but that day, it made sense. And I decided that I was going to, make my own story while at UCLA.
That's amazing. I mean, the campus does really take your breath away when you're walking around. It feels very LA sunshine, and you can just hang out there all day. I love that. During undergrad, what did you major in, and what was your journey? You did some internships there too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for undergrad, I majored in communication studies. I really just was interested in sort of how people interact and what makes people tick. And I feel like I was undeclared to start, and I sort of fell into this major because I happened to take so many classes that interested me that applied to it. And so I decided, I was like, well, seems like I really like this, so we're going to keep pushing forward through that. And then I also joined a sorority. I joined a dance group. I led that for a few years as well. So tried to get as involved as possible to find, my little home away from home as much as I could. When it came to internships, I jumped sort of right into HR. That wasn't 100% expected. I think for a lot of communications majors, they all did, marketing internships or PR or things like that. And I think Target came and did a sort of resume workshop in undergrad, and I had no idea how to put together a resume. And so I went to one of their workshops and just met the people, and it was kind of like when I first came to UCLA, where I was like, this just feels right. And I sort of fell into it. And then it was an internship where we were in the store in Westwood and got to really get some real world leadership experience as well as HR experience. And it just sort of felt right. It kind of combined the reason why I loved the communications major of what motivates people, how do they interact, how do we do this life thing well, and that it kind of combined it with the professional world. And so for me, I think I was just really interested in it from the beginning, and then I've sort of followed along that all the way through.
I love that. I actually love the fact that you started as undeclared and then fell into communications, because you really did find what is interesting, what do I want to do with my career, rather than, starting out being like, I need to take all these classes because that's what I think I want to do. And so I feel like that's a really interesting path to go on,
Yeah,
just to,
absolutely.
see what you're interested in. And so following your internship at Target, what happened with your career journey after Target? You finished undergrad, you graduated as graduated UCLA, your first round as a Bruin. So where did your career journey go from there?
Yeah, of course. So my senior year, I did another internship sort of while I was a student at an elevator company in HR. I was working on their recognition program. So I got to basically just pick out all of the superstar employees and send them gifts, which was really fun. It was a very positive sort of work environment in that way. And then after school, I started the day after graduation at a financial company. I started as the assistant to the head of HR, which was sort of a whirlwind role. I got to work very closely with all of the executives as an executive assistant. I got to really interact with the CFO, the CEO, all of their assistants, which was really great experience, I would say, just having that firsthand interaction. But I also, part of my role, or more than half of my role, was as the HR assistant to the team. So I really got to bounce around between all of the different pieces of HR. So I got to work with the recruiting team. I got to work with the benefits team, the HR business partners. I really got to, bounce around to the projects that I felt like I could make the biggest impact and really get to try things out. Kind of like undergrad, in that I went in undeclared. This role was kind of like that too, where they just sort of let me bounce around to what I thought I could help with. And it really helped me figure out what I felt my right path would be, at least starting out in HR.
It's like a rotational program within human resources, right? Because there's so many different aspects of human resources that I feel like a lot of people might not know. Do you want to kind of go over the basis of what kind of roles you could take on in human resources too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel so grateful to my first manager at that company because he really did guide me through all of this. And he really let me sort of explore and pushed me to do as much as I possibly could in the finite amount of time that we had. So shout out to Jason, because that was really such an incredible experience. And really what you can do in HR, there's a huge plethora of roles depending on how big the company is. So that's where it gets, a little tricky. I think you go all the way from startup where you have, one HR person that does everything, to a gigantic corporation of hundreds of thousands of employees where you'll have entire departments that do very particular roles. And so say we're at one of those larger companies, I can kind of walk you through what all of the different pieces could be. So you have the recruiting world, where they are really trying to connect people to the correct roles that make the most sense, make people feel, valued and bring them in. They also can help with internal switches. So if people are looking internally, they are able to help, get people the new roles inside a company, so that people don't feel like they have to always switch, which is exciting. There's talent branding that kind of goes with recruitment. So for talent branding, they're kind of like the marketers, but for HR. So they get to really brand the company so that people want to work there, and so that current employees are also really excited to work there. So that's a really cool sort of dual kind of hybrid role between marketing and HR. Within the HR business partner world, those are kind of like the connectors. They are the strategists. They're the ones that work directly with the business managers to help them through their organizational design. They connect with recruiters to make sure we're hiring the correct people. They're kind of like the personal advisors to the business. So that's a really cool role. And I feel like they wear a ton of hats. So you can't really explain what they do on any given day because it's always changing. And then you have sort of the learning team, the learning and organizational development, and they really are focused on developing people at a company. So they make sure people are, improving their performance, that they're really able to feel like they are constantly sort of being challenged, being pushed, all of those things that makes you really want to stay around at a company and make you feel valued. and feel like you're growing. So those are really cool roles. They can help with succession planning and things like that. And then the world that I'm in, the total rewards world, sort of has two different sides primarily. And I'm sorry, I might have missed a few roles in there, but that's generally the guidance. But for total rewards, you have the benefits side. So they do things like 401k, all of your medical plans, and fun perks and things like that. And then you have the compensation team, which I'm on currently. So the compensation team uses sort of internal and external data to figure out the most fair and appropriate and competitive way to pay someone, not just when they start, but throughout the life cycle of an employee. So that's sort of the general HR overview.
So after you did that more like rotational, you got to touch a bunch of different areas in HR. Where'd you go to after that?
Yeah, so after that, I jumped into talent analytics and onboarding, which was such a cool role that you don't really get to see. It was because it was sort of the perfect size company where I kind of got to wear a lot of hats. And I did the onboarding, so I did everybody's background checks, I-9s, all of that, which was a really good view into sort of what the requirements are for HR and a lot of the legal requirements and backgrounds. And then on the other side, I got to really improve on my analytical skills and my Excel skills because I did a lot of the metrics and the budgets and everything behind all of our recruitment functions. So I got to see where we were being the most effective and the most efficient and where we could really improve and improve throughout the entire life cycle of onboarding from, you know, the first time we reach out to a candidate, I was able to track and figure out how we can make things better and more efficient. So that was a really cool sort of bridge role where I got to learn analytics through a bunch of different online courses and YouTube and all of that and just sort of find my way through.
I love that. It's really, there's so much information out there if you're interested in something to be able to go for it and just learn on your own too. And in this case, how was that process learning the whole analytical side of everything?
Yeah, I loved it. I figured it was kind of like a challenge. I mean, I just love learning in general. Like I am a complete nerd. I am that kid that comes to class with the 17 different highlighters and I'm like the 14 different notebooks. And I love that. And so I did, you know, the HR certifications. I did a financial analysis course online throughout all of this. Like I was always just trying to find the next way to learn the next thing to prepare me for whatever is next. I have no idea what it is, but always just looking for ways to improve. And I found that YouTube is your best friend. I don't think that there's any role that anyone out there can't do if they're willing to Google and put the time in, because I really do think that you can teach yourself anything with enough time. So I did a lot of Googling, a lot of just sort of popping up over the cubicle and asking friends for help. But in general, I think I had such a supportive team. And so we all really helped each other through a lot of it. And I learned so much from that first team that I worked on. And that was really, you know, I was so grateful to all of them because I came from a communications background where you're just writing papers nonstop. And this was sort of the first time I've ever had to use Excel. I also was really lucky in that I had a lifeline because my mom actually is in compensation too. Never expected to end up in compensation. I was like, no one falls into compensation. No one does that. Like, what is compensation even? Like, I was the one person on the planet going into college that knew what that was, it felt like, because she did it. But I was able to call her, and my mom is a rock star when it comes to, you know, just all things in general, but especially when I was ever like hung up on something, I'd be like, how do you do this in Excel? Like, how do you do this? And she was always able to help walk me through any given, you know, thing that I got stuck on, which was really nice.
Leveraging your resources. I mean, hey, that is really amazing that your mom is also in the same field and was able to be a guide and like almost a mentor to you for in your career too, which is really amazing. So Then you went into entertainment, right? You had some time in entertainment, or not some time, you transitioned into entertainment. And so let's talk a little bit about that and the process from finance to a financial group to doing human resources at a big entertainment company.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest shift was actually just mostly in company size, but also partially in the clients you support. So my job at the financial company was the same as within entertainment, from the bare bones, the job description, it's generally the same. But I would say that, working for such a large company that's so established, that's what I was so excited for. I was really excited to work for some place where it felt so put together. Like they really had so much history when it came to things and so many different processes. And I felt like it could be a really cool next step for learning to jump into a place where I was, one of me plus my manager for compensation, doing that for the entire company, now to being one of, 9, 10 plus people, and even more broadly at the company, way more than that. So it was really cool to jump into an organization where I felt like when I got stuck, I could actually ask someone who had directly been through it and would be able to help me through anything and had seen it all. And so that was really cool. On the other flip side, entertainment is creative. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more fluid, a little bit more fast-paced, exciting in that way. And it's just really fun. You get cool perks. You get to go and see the movies that all of the people you support create, and get to be part of something that feels, so joyful, which is just really, it makes you feel good to come to work every day when you feel like you are contributing not only to your own happiness when you're a fan yourself, but also to a lot of other people's happiness, just on a very, very broad scale. It felt cool to be a part of that.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with entertainment that's so exciting is you, especially when you work in entertainment, you get to see the process behind the scenes. And then when it comes out and you see how it becomes so many people's escape, that medium of film, TV, and it's their enjoyment, um they get so excited, they become invested in the characters. And so it's fun to work for companies that have that type of fandom around what they're doing at all times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in Soteria Financial Group and when you're at Disney, you worked as a compensation analyst. So you started out your first role in compensations, right? How did you find that role, and what do you enjoy about being in compensation?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, my mom is in compensation, so I never thought that I would get into it. But apparently the apple does not fall far from the tree in that it seems so interesting. I feel like I get to balance the side of figuring out what motivates people and what makes people feel engaged and feel valued, and feel like they are part of, a fair organization where they're treated well. But also the flip side of the analysis, which keeps me, it's like a little puzzle every single day. I feel like every day, everything I get to do is a puzzle. And I grew up playing Sudoku like every day. I loved that game.
It's the best game,
It's the
honestly.
best
It
game
is. You could do it
ever.
for hours.
Yeah. And like jigsaw puzzles, all of it. I love puzzles, and I feel like it was just such a great way to mesh the two sides of things. And I
Yes.
think a lot of the times people think of HR as, I say this as like just Toby from the office, but it's so much more. There's so much strategy and so much like analysis that goes into every given decision. And I think that was the first time where I really got to see what that meant. And the first manager at that financial company, he was able to help guide me through that and really say, hey, I think this would be a cool opportunity. I think you need to work on X, Y, and Z. And that's what I used that talent analytics role to really do, to help boost the Excel skills that I would need in order to make that happen. And then I got a shot, and it's sort of rare, I think, to get a chance to try out a new role like that, where you really don't have the experience. And I would say, again, Google was my best friend. I was Googling all day long how to do formulas, how to build out all of these spreadsheets, how to make all of my analyses work together and make them presentable for executives. And it was a very challenging experience, but it was also great because it allowed me to, go up to all of my coworkers and ask them questions 10 times a day. And really got me very involved in everything that everyone was doing, which was a really good experience as, my first role in it. But it was sort of thrown into the deep end and you make it work.
Yeah, and I feel like you use that as an opportunity, it seems, to leverage different resources and be able to talk to your colleagues and build relationships, because by asking questions and working together to really make an impact.
Oh yeah, never be afraid to ask a question.
100% agree with that. So then what made you decide to pursue FEMBA, right? So you're in the compensation role now. Why did you decide to get your MBA?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to go back to school. I come from a family that's, education and curiosity has always been a really big thing in our family. I mean, even growing up, I learned how to read because on long car trips, we would read out loud to each other. So we'd like pass the book around and everyone would do a chapter. And so I feel like when it comes to education and all of that, it's always been a really fundamental part of who I am. And so I always felt really strongly about going back to graduate school. It just took me a little longer to figure out exactly what program I wanted. I shopped around a little bit. I looked at HR specific programs. I looked at MBAs. I looked kind of all over organizational psychology. And I also talked to some of my mentors at the time, and they gave me some really great advice. I think I was able to look out sort of 10, 15 years in the future to see the roles I wanted and be able to look at some of the backgrounds of some of those people that have those roles. And I think that really, in order to sort of progress in a meaningful way to the roles that I wanted, it felt like a true MBA was the right fit for me. And it really would help me in showing that I could have a seat at the table when it comes to all the different business leaders. I always knew I wanted to stay in HR. I love HR. I think there's so many different paths I could take. And so because of that, I really just wanted to have a more well-rounded experience where I got to be exposed to a lot more things when it comes to how businesses in particular are run and how the day-to-day of different departments work. So I really just wanted that exposure. When it comes to FEMBA in particular, I actually was looking at full-time programs. I was sort of getting ready, doing applications as if I was going to, and then I got the offer from Disney, and I didn't really want to press pause on my career. I was like, I want to feel like I'm growing in every single way. And I feel like I also I like work. I like being busy. I like being challenged. I didn't know it would be quite this challenging, but it's been worth it. It's been a long 3 years, but I am so grateful for the journey. And I feel like it made it a little bit more fulfilling in a sense, because I was able to work at the same time. And so everything I learned in class, I was able to truly bring in full, real time, which was something I didn't quite expect. But it is true. And everyone always tells you that when you're coming in, but you don't really believe them until it happens. So I would say that's the biggest thing for me with FEMBA. It didn't make sense to press pause when I felt like I was sort of just hitting my stride, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. You got this great offer, and you wanted to enhance your career too. So why not be able to learn and be able to apply it right away, right? I think that was one of my favorite things about working and going to school, was just being able to take what you're learning and be like, oh, this would be interesting for my for what I'm doing right now in my job. So you go the next day and you're like, I think we should be doing more of this. That you really do get to see the impact right away, which is exciting to be able to see how like what you're learning at school is going to change what you're currently doing. So yeah, I think that was a really nice way to experience Femba by going into and doing both of those. So you also then had a job change while you're in Femba, right?
Yes.
So what is your current role and how did your job change? Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with 1 year left to go, I decided to make a switch into gaming. So a little bit like entertainment, but with a little bit more of a tech side to it as well, which is really exciting. And really it was that there was a lot of great experience when it came to sort of executive compensation, which was something that I hadn't been able to see before. And I think the exposure, I'm always about learning, and I think I was ready for that exposure, and it felt really cool to have that opportunity. And it's really been such a fun ride throughout all of it. I think I've been able to learn so much in such a short amount of time. I mean, I can't believe it's only been a year, and I feel like I've already done so much in that amount of time, especially with school and everything. But it has been so rewarding to make that switch and to just feel like, might as well try something out. I didn't want to hold myself back just because I was in school. I wanted to really feel like I was jumping in and take on that challenge as much as it terrified me.
How was the process of switching your job while in school, and how did the stuff, we went through core year already and some electives, how did that impact your transition?
Yeah, I would say that the craziest part of it was doing that while also starting GAP.
Yes, I
So
can
doing that
imagine.
while doing our capstone was probably the most wild experience, but it was also really great. I think that GAP sort of starts out a little bit slower, so I was able to get my bearings a little bit before really diving in. But at the same time, I felt like I was just you know running at such a high level for so long that it just felt natural to be doing it in every aspect. So I feel like it was go 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 just in school and work and school and work, but that kind of gives you so much energy, at least for me.
It
For
does.
me, I
I
feel like the
completely
more I
agree.
have going on, the more energized I get, and I feel like it just works out a little bit better for me in that sense. And so it was just a fun ride. I mean, I definitely slept for weeks after GAP finished, uh,
Well
but it
deserved
was it
sleep.
was wild.
Yeah, I mean, the go 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 atmosphere had to be at its top during that time, I can imagine. But you still were able to win, um, to be on the winning GAP team. And we're talking to Mirwaise before, and he was saying how you really were the glue that held the team together. You were just amazing. And so you're going through this job change and GAP, and you put together such a great business report and um won the GAP award. And that's just amazing.
Testament to the team, both at work and on GAP. I think honestly, that was truly, we really supported each other when we had a lot of craziness going on. So I think that really helped. And I think I have a lot of support at work as well. They really value the MBA. They really value what I'm doing and really try and protect that. And I think that's the most important thing, I think, for FEMBAs is having that support from where you work. I think it really does help. And this is why I love HR. I think that we're here, like, as managers, as leaders, as businesses, like, we're here to make sure that people feel engaged and empowered, both inside work and outside work. And I think when those can sort of flow well together, that's the sweet spot. Like that's what we're always working for. And so it's really great to be somewhere that I think everywhere I've worked has really supported me in that. And so I think that's been sort of the easiest part for my journey, is just that everyone around me has kind of just constantly been a cheerleader for it, being like, you're so close, you got this.
I love that. You know, it really is the supportive 2023 class, everyone just cheering you on whenever you're working through something, be like, you got this, you could keep going, it's almost there, it's almost there.
Yeah,
We're almost at the deadline. You're almost at week 10.
it's really a marathon.
We're at the finish line. So let's talk a little bit about the GAP process. So GAP, again, is Global Access Program. It's the capstone project for FEMBAs. And so in the MBA program, instead of a traditional thesis, we do capstone projects, and you could choose like BCO, business creation option, you could choose GAP. There's a couple other options, but those are the very popular ones. And so your team did GAP. Let's talk about the process and the importance of that group formation a bit, because that's the beginning of the whole GAP team getting together, and you're trying to find who, you know, how to build the best team. So how did you all build the winning GAP team?
I would say the group formation is the #1 most important thing about GAP. I am so incredibly grateful for my group. I think that every single one of us had different strengths, and they balanced each other out so well. I mean, you know, when you look at it, we had such a wide variety of backgrounds. We had marketing, consulting, HR, finance, engineering, operations. Like we had everything all in one, which really helped because we came from such different perspectives on so many different things, which really is so important. It sounds stressful, but it actually makes things way easier because people are able to pick out things that you don't see, and they're able to catch things that you might not catch. And so for us, that really helped. I would say also, we had just different interpersonal strengths too. I mean, Mirwaise that you talked to is one of the most positive people I have ever met in my entire life. And so he really was able to sort of be like the team cheerleader. When we were having tough days, he came in and just was able to make everybody smile. I think that Ryan is one of the most creative rock stars. Like he really has all kinds of like such creative ideas that he's able to somehow put forth that I would never be able to envision anytime in my life. And so that helps tremendously. Monica is so organized, so smart, so on top of it. I feel like every question she asked was just so thoughtful, and so just, it sort of made me take a step back because she's just so brilliant. And Jeremy, his financial skills were just rock solid, and he really came in with everything that we needed when it came to all the financials, which I gotta admit was not my strong suit in all of that. I really, you know, was sort of the project manager. That was my role on the team. And so I just had to make sure that people got to where they needed to be when they needed to be there. But overall, I think it wouldn't have, I wouldn't have been able to do that role if they weren't such incredible rock stars. And I think we were also just friends. So that helped. I mean, like Jeremy invited us to his home, which was so, so fun. We had a little potluck, and he's just so welcoming. And it was just, I feel like we just truly were friends, which made things go a lot more smoothly, because you don't want to let down your friends either. I mean, we're sure we're peers and we're colleagues, but at the end of the day, we just didn't want to let each other down because we just like love each other so much that would just be so disappointing.
I love that. And you really do get so close with your GAP team. And even if you're not really close friends at the beginning, or, you know, maybe you didn't even weren't in each other's sections, but you do bond with her in 6 months of a lot of togetherness. So the team formation is important, but it also is just such a great bonding experience between the people on the team. And so how did this experience help with leadership development and your career? I mean, you work in HR and compensation specifically, but I know that leadership development is such a big skill set in human resources, right? And so how did this experience really contribute to your career and then also just your leadership skills in general?
Yeah, so I had a mentor in one of my previous roles who also did an MBA, and she told me that the MBA truly is there to throw more at you than you can handle, and it is your job to figure out what's important and what's important to you and to prioritize. And that's like the biggest leadership skill you could learn, is to figure out how to be careful with your time and thoughtful with your energy. And I never felt that more viscerally than in the GAP project. I think there's so much to do and it feels so overwhelming at the beginning, but it somehow all comes together because you're thoughtful about how you do everything and you balance it with your teammates and you all sort of work together. I know that we had ups and downs where some people on our team were more busy and some people were less busy, and we really just sort of filled in the gaps. And I think when it comes to, the team dynamics versus personal dynamics, I would say really leadership is about that. It's about balancing energy and balancing priorities and balancing, what needs to go where and when and how. And I think that was the biggest thing I learned from GAP. Every project that every group did was so different, but I think a lot of the things you can learn from the project are sort of universal and core. And it's figuring out how to balance everything. It's figuring out how to get a project done when you don't have all of the information you need and you don't have enough time and you never feel like you have all of the resources that you could possibly have to make it as good as you want it to be, but it's still going to be great and you still can do the best you can do with what you have. And I think that's really what we were trying to get at as a group, is we just wanted to be proud of what we put out. And I think, the GAP project really taught us a lot about what our own standards were for ourselves, how we work, how we lead each other, how we support each other. And I think that's, a lot of what that project was able to bring.
Yeah. And what was that experience like presenting in front of the GAP judges and company executives? Because that was a huge part of the project. You do your report and then you present it, and you're in front of all these judges, your company executives fly in. And so what was that experience like going into that?
Yeah, it was amazing, honestly. I think much like the rest of our project, we sort of split everything out. So I did the launch weekend presentation, which is like 10 minutes to tell everybody what our project is going to be. And then Mirwaise and Jeremy did sort of the midpoint presentation. And then Ryan and Monica were rock stars and came in and did the final presentation at the very end, the really scary one. But they absolutely crushed it. It was so incredible. So they did that, and then we came up and we were able to do the Q&A with them for about 15 or so minutes. And I grew up on a stage. I grew up dancing, and so I really enjoy some of those opportunities to feel like you have butterflies in your stomach. I mean, I hate them to like at the beginning before I do something, but when you're in it, it's just so exciting and so energizing. And everyone's dressed up and so fancy, even though you've been in sweats for 3 years. And so it was so rewarding to see what our team was able to accomplish. I think we had so many late nights, so many long meetings, so much stress, a lot of desserts. And I think it all sort of came together in the best way. And we were able to just be there for each other and celebrate each other. And I think truly at the end of the day, I don't know if I've ever been more proud of any project I've ever done up until this point than that project, because I think it was the most like smooth experience with the team. It was the most rewarding learning experience with the team. I think we all just were there to help each other and to teach each other new things throughout it. I mean, I learned so much about all of these various different tools throughout it that it really was so it just felt so rewarding. It felt like it didn't feel like I could, take a deep breath because I was so excited to be done. It was like, oh my goodness, all these people I have been seeing for 10 plus hours a week the past 6 months, like we're done now. And it's wild. And it was so exciting and so rewarding, but it was also a little bit bittersweet where I'm like, wait, but I loved this.
I'll miss you all. Yeah, it's hard to like let that go. It's such an integral part of your life for half a year. I mean,
Yeah.
this group that you're meeting with for so much of the week, you're like 10 plus hours. And so that's an amazing experience that you had. And I feel like it's just so says a lot about the team that you put together to be, so excited about the project and to have made an impact to your client at the end of the day too, which is an exciting part of doing that program, is you're delivering something to a company that can have major impact to them.
Yeah, and we got very lucky with a very cool client. We were very excited about our project, very excited about the product, so excited about the group that we were working with. I think they really wanted to see us succeed too, which helped. So I think, starting off on a good fit from the beginning really, really sort of helped carry us all the way through.
That's amazing. And I understand you're also involved in different leadership positions. So want to talk about Femba Council first. You're really involved in Femba Council, which handles like everything for our program. So
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
experience in that.
Absolutely. So, week one, leadership foundations, they asked who wanted to get involved. And I think I told myself before joining Anderson that I was gonna really put myself out there and really get the most, because as I said, I was thinking about doing full-time programs and went with the part-time. And I was like, no, I'm still gonna make the absolute most of this situation and this program as I possibly can. And even though it's a part-time program, it's never felt that way for me, because I really just, from literally week one, they asked who wanted to be a rep. And I was like, sure, that sounds great. And so with the academic rep position, really you're sort of the liaison to the sort of academic world and all of the administrators, and then also your cohort and your section. And so for me, it was kind of like HR for our section. And so it sort of meshed really well for what I was interested in. I sort of like figuring out how to solve people's problems. That's it's one thing that I really do enjoy. And so it was great to be able to send out those surveys or pick up the phone call. Like people would call me asking to give feedback. And so I was able to compile all of that. And we had, weekly, monthly, quarterly meetings with the administration in order to share that feedback. And I think it really, really did help people pivot. And I think we had direct conversations with professors too, where we were able to give real-time feedback. And especially in COVID, it was so necessary because this was so new to everybody. We were all figuring it out. Not everything was, as smooth as everybody knows, in any part of our lives, nothing was smooth. And so it was really nice to be able to try and figure out how to take our situation and make it better. And I truly do believe that the administration was doing everything they possibly could and listening to every single thing that I told them and really wanted to make it better. And I think that sometimes some of these things, you can't fix in a day, but I really do think that they have been taking all of that feedback. And so it was a really rewarding position from that standpoint. Otherwise, I kind of just kept people informed. We sent weekly emails where they had their homework on those emails, had all of the events, which is, kind of what I still do for my friends. We have a group chat. A group chat that goes out, and I feel like it's every event, mostly just because I want to see them at every event. I'm like, guys, ticket signups, let's go. So that was a really cool role. And then the VP position was open for that same group, and I felt like I had some cool ideas for how we could make the processes that we do a little bit more efficient, how we could improve upon them, and really just help guide the next incoming reps into doing it for their class. And so that's really what I did as the VP. I was kind of the person that they were able to take all of their feedback. If they had any larger concerns, they could bring it to me, and I helped set up calls with the administration and helped get all of that sort of working and moving forward. And then this year, I get to support Yong on the Student Affairs Committee, and that's been amazing. He is an absolute rock star. I've never met somebody who's able to do more in a single day than that human being. And so
superhuman, I mean.
Yeah, everything he does is so fun, and just being able to sort of watch him in action has been a really cool year. He's definitely done more in his 3 years here than I could possibly imagine one human being able to do, and it's awesome. So yeah, that was really my time in Femba Council. I think it's a really cool sort of way to very quickly get involved. And I think especially with COVID, it was a way to, keep up with the pulse of things and be able to know what's going on, and really be able to stay informed, but also have a voice. I think it was really cool to be able to firsthand get to share my opinion on things and be able to talk directly with the people that can sort of make some of those changes happen. And I think that was a really cool experience that I was able to be a part of.
It's cool that being on Femba Council gives you such a say in what the program is going to do. And, the academic side is so interesting that you're really communicating with professors and being able to have a say in how the processes work. And then you also did C4C, right? Can you talk a little bit about what C4C is, first of all, and your leadership positions there?
Yeah, C4C is Challenge for Charity, which is a really cool sort of cross-campus organization within Anderson, where we support charities. Sometimes they switch it up year over year. And it is something where they also work across a bunch of different MBA programs, which I think is really cool. So it's sort of bringing everyone together, not just the UCLA campus. It's sort of like a national organization, which I think is amazing and gets people really involved in all of the different charitable organizations that they can. And what they do, and I know a lot of full-timers have participated in this, and some FEMBAs as well, is they do sort of a cross MBA program competition. And so if you've done all of your volunteer hours for the year, you get to join in the sort of this Olympics day, which is really fun. And so I did that the first year, and then I was also able to be a VP on that for FEMBA relations. So it's really just being sure I'm really just the one that gets the word out on all of the events, make sure that the FEMBAs are informed if they want to be involved, if they want to join. We had some really cool events where some people would go to sort of elementary schools or middle schools and be able to mentor kids. There's a lot of really cool opportunities, I think, just throughout every quarter and year. And I think it's a really cool organization to be a part of at Anderson, where you feel like you're making a direct impact in the community and not just at the school. So I wanted to sort of have that dual focus as I moved through. And then I did that just for the first 2 years, because as I mentioned, I switched roles for my third year and wanted to be able to dedicate a bit more energy towards that and towards GAP. So decided to take a step back from that club just so that I could make sure that I could balance everything and give it my all.
Yeah, and it's so great that there's an opportunity to get so involved in different nonprofits, being able to give back while you're in school. But I mean, the amount you did over these 3 years, a new job, leadership positions in Femba Council and C4C, all the volunteer events, winning GAP. I mean, you've done it all during your time here. And I think I want to end on just a little bit of your overall journey. So just kind of to sum it up before we get into our quick takes and the and or take section of the podcast. So switching from finance, entertainment, now you're in gaming, what brought you to all those different industries, and what excites you about your current role in gaming?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when it comes to all the different places I've worked and the industries I've worked in, I really just want to be working for a place where I believe in what they're doing and where I feel like they are making the world just a little bit better in any way they can. And I think, you know, at the financial company, they absolutely were doing that. They were helping people make sure that they were, you know, planning their futures well, and staying on top of that. And I think that with, you know, entertainment, they're making everyone's day a little bit brighter and a little bit happier and bringing families together in that way. And then I would say for the gaming industries, it's similar. I think, you know, the gaming industry is such an incredible space for community. I think everybody is, you know, everything that you can do online and be able to play with each other, and really it's something that people do throughout their entire lives, which I think is amazing. They start from such a young age, and then it makes them feel like a kid again when they're an adult. And I think it really just brings a little bit of joy. And especially in the past few years where things have felt, you know, a little crazy and a little wild, to have a little bit of normalcy that can connect people even when you're not able to be together, I think is just such a wonderful thing. And I really do think that it's also pushing the boundaries of a lot of tech and being innovative. And I think it's really finding a lot of creative ways to do cool new things. And so for me, it's really exciting in that sense, and that I get to be a part of a company that's really trying to, you know, make changes for the better and really innovate and be at the forefront of whatever they do.
And I just want to share my screen and show you what one of your classmates said about you in their nomination. I just think it was really powerful. So Heather is an incredible human being. So in the first year, she was our section's internal rep, and then went on to become the VP of Internal Affairs for Femba Council, working tirelessly with administration to deliver critical feedback to improve the program. Since joining Femba, she switched jobs from one big entertainment company to another and is doing critical work in the field of HR. She's always on time, extremely organized, dependable, and is always willing to help her fellow classmates with anything. She was a major reason for her GAP team success in winning the GAP Team Award. Her friends will probably describe her as Hermione and a border collie wrapped up into one package. And she's absolutely going to go on to do amazing things in her career. I couldn't think of anybody better to help inspire future Fembas.
That's so sweet.
I needed to share that because I thought it was just so deep. You know, just to see, it really shows how we all love to watch each other's success in their careers, in their life journeys. So I wanted to make sure that you were able to see that.
Yeah, such a kind call out.
And let's go into the undertake. So, are you ready?
I think so.
Best class at Anderson.
I would say my favorite class was the ESG for managers and investors. I took it the first year they offered it, and so they were kind of trying out a few things, but I absolutely loved it. They were able to, you know, bring in guest speakers. I was able to see sort of how business and societal change for good sort of interacted, and how we report on that and how we manage to that. And it just was a really cool class. I loved it.
And your best memory from Femba?
Oh, there's so many. I would say, honestly, all of the GAP experiences, from just the day-to-day, like just laughing with my team, to going all the way to New York with a few of them, was so much fun. But also all of the trips. I'm such a big traveler, and to be able to do that with all of my classmates, do the ski trips and do all of the fun adventures. We went to Nashville. We got to do so many really cool adventures. And I think that really brings you closer and bonds you with everybody. And the classroom experiences were incredible, but I think that they were made so much more powerful by the relationships we were able to build on some of those experiences and adventures.
Thanks. Favorite professor?
Ooh, probably last quarter, I took the crisis class with Professor Yasmin, and that was such a cool quarter. She is truly a force to be reckoned with. She is such a cool human being. She's so down to earth and so intelligent. And I think just being able to listen to her real world experiences that she brought to every class was so cool. I wanted to have more class when it came to that one. And I really I thought that she was such an inspiring professor to have at UCLA.
Do you have a most memorable case study by chance?
Ooh, probably the Nordstrom case study. I think that was in LF, and it was right as we were starting, and I knew I wanted to come to MBA for HR to figure out how to best, motivate, engage, all of those sort of things. And it was like the first case we got was literally about how do we motivate people? How do we pay them correctly? How do we do all of these things? And it was like, it made me feel like this was the right move. It made me feel like this is where I should be. This is, important for business leaders to know. And it really just felt very validating. So as much as a case could be memorable, I would say it was that one in particular.
I really like that one. It was I feel like it was also at the beginning. So it was one of the first case studies we did. Best core year memory that leads me into.
Ooh, I'd say in class, it has to be Mirwaise singing Mulan. I swear he was given a dare by the professor. She sort of like called him out. She's like, do you know the song? Do you want to sing it? And he grabbed the microphone, stood up. We have it all on video. It's the best thing it's my number one favorite memory. The entire class started singing. It was so much fun. And that truly was sort of like what brought him out of his shell with everybody. And it just felt like everybody sort of kumbaya, and we were finally in person together, and it was just so much fun.
Honestly, such a unique experience to have an entire class singing together and business school.
Yep.
Favorite Slack channel?
So our class, because we started in COVID, didn't have a lot of like formal social get-togethers, and so we created this. I would say it's like, I'm sure you know this, the Slack channel, what was it called? Roaring 20s. Roaring 20s, where it was sort of our informal way to get every section all together and really just, people would post random things. I'm going to dinner here. Do you want to join? I'm going to this concert. Do you want to join? And it was such a collaborative way to bring the Slack channel that was created. I think Kelvin set that up over summer, where they set that up, and we were able to really make friendships before school even started. And it just was able to continue into our formal Slack. And I think it's still going strong. It's amazing. I think everybody still just wants to stay connected and wants to do everything together. And it's just been, the class of 23 is super strong, and you really see it in that Slack channel. And I love that.
We all have a powerful connection, and you always want to help each other out, meet each other. So, the dinner with one another. So that Slack channel is wonderful for facilitating meetups. And then what advice would you give to future and current students?
I would say you get out of it what you put into it. And for me, that's really felt so true, in that the friends I've made are going to be friends for life because of all of the, energy and adventures and time and trips and helping out with homework and all of that we were able to do for one another. And I think that it's the same with classes. The energy and the work you pour into every assignment that you get, the learning you take from that is directly proportional to the amount of energy you spend, I think, a lot of the time. And I really do feel like throughout all of it, you're only going to get out as much as you put in.
I 100% echo that. Get out what you put in, and you make, it is what you make of it too. A lot of being in the MBA program. And so I want to give you some space for a final thought. So you have anything you'd want to say to, the current students, future students, anything that we left out of your story as we went and walked through it. Just the final thoughts, space for you to communicate anything else.
Yeah, I would say, these last 3 years have been some of the most challenging, but also most rewarding years of my life. And I absolutely would not have been able to do a single second of it without my family and my friends and the classmates that I have at the school. And I really do think that because it was, such an intense experience, that I really learned to lean on people more. And I'm so grateful that people let me do that and that they were there for me and to catch me. And I really do owe that to this FEMBA experience so much. And I wanted to just thank both of you for letting me, tell my story and be able to share why I love HR so much, why I love UCLA so much. I mean, I'm a double Bruin. I came back twice because it feels like home, and I absolutely, love the school and love what it's given to me.
Thank you for sharing your inspiring story. I love reading what everyone wrote about you, and I'm just so happy that I got to hear your entire story.
This was so fun.
Dylan for the wrap up.
Yay! Just well done, Caitlin, and oh my God, Heather. It was so extra special to get to hear your story and Mirwaise's story in the same evening, because there's so much organic overlap because of your GAP team and all the shared experiences. And Caitlin, God bless you. Caitlin's gonna go get on a red eye and go to Florida.
Yes, so I will probably be leaving now for and running to the airport, and as Dylan wraps up with his final thoughts.
Safe travels.
Okay, well, Caitlin, we will continue in 2 days, and just all blessings and thoughts with your family. And
thank you, appreciate it.
All right. Well, Heather, I wanted to, it froze. As a double Bruin, I was actually thinking of a question I wanted to throw out there, because I think you all are sort of the connective opportunity to the bigger UCLA. And I love how Dean Bernardo talks about within 1 square mile, right? Within 1 square mile, the first node of the internet, UCLA to Stanford, with 1 square mile, Jackie Robinson, within 1 square mile, Bunch and Ava DuVernay and Tom Bradley, all these Olympic gold medalists. So I went to Texas A&M, and we're a big tradition school, huge, ridiculous tradition school. And if I try to imagine if you went to grad school at A&M, I think you'd always feel a little bit like, there's a secret society. So my question, what, for graduate students who did not go to UCLA, what's 1 or 2 or 3 or even just 1 UCLA undergraduate tradition that it's really important to know about? It could be the 8 clap. I don't know. Just what are some things that make UCLA special as an undergrad that you might just not know about if you're a grad student?
Yeah, I mean, so many different things. I think in undergrad, there's the traditions of you touch the fountain before you start, and there's superstitions where you're not allowed to touch the inverted fountain until you graduate. And it really is just it's bringing the community together over some of these shared traditions. I think there's the 8 clap that everybody learns at orientation week, and we learned it in LF for grad school as well. So it is such a formative moment, and it is challenging, but it is very doable. It is definitely one of the longer cheers, but it will be in your head forever. And I think that honestly, just the energy on campus is one that you can't beat. I think around UCLA, just all of the old theaters in Westwood, that makes you really know that this is such an entertainment hub in LA. to all of the old buildings like Royce and the beautiful brick around campus, you just really feel like you are part of such a old and important institution. But it's also got so much energy still. I think I was walking around campus just the other day for a lunch with some classmates, and there's so many people, I mean, doing dance routine videos in front of the library, to dogs be like frisbees being thrown, to people sitting out on the lawn having picnics. And I think just all of the energy that you see on campus, while my experience at business school was completely different from my experience in undergrad, which I absolutely loved, there was still so many common threads that made me feel so nostalgic every time I was able to kind of walk through the other parts of campus and get outside of the Anderson courtyard. I think that's really a lot of it, is just the energy and what you know is going on in all of the different buildings.
Well, two things off that. Yeah, I love it when I'm working late some nights and I come out and the ones with the sticks, you know, I don't even know I don't know which tradition it is, but they're the rhythmic banging of the sticks. And it's like, where am I? It's so enlivening because it echoes through the parking garage. And I just think to myself, this is really, really cool. And then you'll see the folks in front of, like over by the Bear, you'll see people out the different. And then speaking of Royce Hall, you gave a shout out to Royce Hall. So for pre-Palooza, I have a verbal agreement. We don't even have the contract signed, but Palooza, July 29th, is going to start at 3 o'clock as it does. But we're going to have a pre-Palooza, an optional sort of state of the school and a leadership pass the baton. So I kind of want like Kyle and Carol Ann and all of your e-board generation, right?
Yeah.
Whoever I can get from your generation to hand it forward to Tiffany and Monica. And we're even going to try to do it cross programmatically. So the story that is so cool that Tiffany went to college with Juhi, the rising ASA full-time president. They were both at UC Davis. They were they were in rival sororities or something, but they actually know each other and are good friends from undergrad. And now in parallel, they're going to be the leaders of FEMBA and full-time. And so we're working out, but I'm envisioning, let's say we get 200 of the new FEMBAs, 200 of the new full-timers. Oh, and full-timers are coming to pre-Palooza and main Palooza because we got the timing. It's Saturday before the start of their Leadership Foundation. And we have, I don't know, 100 new MBAs. Well, that's 500 people. Plus we have returnings because, you know, Royce will hold about 1,000 on the lower level and, you know, really create a moment like the aspirational, you know, the beautiful quote across the top about education connects mankind or whatever that quote is, that's in stone. And then roll out to kind of the beauty of the lawn and the fountain and the savory and so anywho, so that's okay. So inverted fountain, touch it at the start. And then what's the thing? You can't touch it till you graduate?
Yep. You're not allowed to touch it until after you graduate. Otherwise you won't graduate.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay. And the 8 clap and and then the energy on campus. And it is an urban park. That Mirwaise also talked about that, similar to, and I loved how, what was it? Was it your sister? So I'm not going to go there. And then you went anyway, and then you kind of felt at home.
Yeah, my sister and my dad.
Oh, that's right. Now, your dad, did he go undergrad or grad school?
Undergrad. Yeah, we were a Bruin family.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, yeah, we either do the opposite of our parents or we follow, it's all that. Okay, and then this one, you may have already answered this, but I just was thinking about this is a leftover from when we did the summer spotlights 2 years ago, which was a bear hug. So similar to Caitlin's lightning round, but if you could give one, because it takes a village to raise a FEMBA. Nobody gets through this by themselves. So if you could give one bear hug, it could be a family, it could be a friend, it could be a classmate. But who's a person who really was there for you when you needed a hug? Who would you give an acknowledgement to as being key to your successful journey these 3 years? Who would you like to give a bear hug to?
Yeah, I would say if I only have to choose one,
Oh, you can double dip. You can double dip.
Okay. If I double dip, I give it to both of my parents, honestly. They've both received a lot of random phone calls, late night phone calls, of a lot of stress, just trying to remind me of why I'm doing this, and you know, helping me stay motivated, but also checking in on me. And I think that, you know, I've, especially through COVID, through all of that, I think that they were always there to pick up the phone every time I had something going on. And I think that that's really sort of been really helpful to know that as things get really stressful here, there's always a place I can go home to. There's always, you know, if I need to, I can always pop down to Orange County, hang out with the dogs, hang out with my parents, get a good home cooked meal, and get a big hug. And I think that support, even if I don't talk to them, you know, every day, I think just knowing that support is there has always been so important to me and so helpful. Because I think that having that there means that I can keep pushing forward. I know that what I'm doing, there's a reason for it. There's purpose behind it. And I think that's who they would both get the bear hug. They both support me in very different ways, but both together. And I would say that's always, that would be the family. I mean, family's number one.
Awesome. Well, and if when I did it the other summer, you know, you could also do a friend or a professor. So, I mean, you could, if you want to do any more, you're welcome. You have, there's no limit on the bear hugs available.
I have so many friends in this program. So like all of my hometown friends that always pick up the call too. So I think that honestly, it really does take a village. I think that there isn't really any one person in my life that I have been able to call every single day, because I've had so many people that I've been able to lean on, and so many people that you know, have supported me through this and been there for a whole lot of laughter, but also a lot of tears. And I think that, you know, this is a long program, and it is a tough program, but it is so worth it. And it is so much easier when there are people around you that understand why you're doing it and really support you in that.
Well, thank you. And I, you know, for anybody listening who's a brand new member of this year or a future year, you know, executive energy is a deal. And I think FEMBA, what I love about FEMBA is it's sort of, it like, you basically promote yourself up 2 or 3 stair steps. Whether the world knows it or not, you are operating in a much higher executive time level demand environment where you have many competing demands on your time. And, you know, there's no way to learn how to do that other than to learn how to do that by doing it.
Yep.
And no one, executives have boards of directors, they have VPs, they delegate, they dance. And for us to each develop our own, you know, CEO of our own career and our own life. So having your parents, I like how you said your hometown friends and your program friends, right? And not just one, but having a network of support, because there is so much coming at you. So for future generations, you know, we had over 360 people in Heather's class. We only got to nominate 6. You know, but I think that a takeaway that we've heard from David Palin last week and from Mirwaise tonight and from yourself, and then we'll have 3 more. There's a lovely continuity of learning how to participate powerfully. And what was it they said about you? A cross between Hermione and a border collie? That's my father had a border collie named Dottie Girl, and he had her my father always has a dog, or actually multiple dogs, because he has a ranch in Texas, but his lifetime favorite dog was a border collie. So that's like very high praise, or a dog family. That's extremely high praise, because, you know, border collies are just, they're so smart. And then of course I'm a Harry Potter fan, and Hermione, you know, keeps everybody, and Mirwaise talked about you in a similar way. like he said, I don't think I'd be graduating if it weren't for Heather nudging me gently forward. Did you turn in the assignment? No, but I'm about to. When you hear his interviews. So I hope people can kind of take away the meta narrative of, what were some of the elements of the winning GAP team, right? There for each other, take it seriously, but also, mood checks and take care of each other, and your whole commitment, the through line in your career, HR through multiple companies. How do we create an environment that attracts, retains, and incentivizes and develops the best and the brightest? That's the war for talent, and it's a real thing. Companies live or die by attracting or not attracting great people, and it's exciting. I started in HR accidentally after my MBA, and I didn't know how much there is to respect about that discipline within the operating of a healthy organization. So it's
absolutely.
We don't get a lot of people with your profile. When we do on the admissions team, we're like, it's an HR practitioner, because it's important to have that voice. And when you represented even the diversity of thought on your team, we had everything. We had marketing, we had operations, we had finance, we had HR. It's like, well, not every team has an HR voice. So yeah, anywho. All right, again, double last words. You were already given last words from Caitlin, but any other thoughts as we kind of land the plane?
Honestly, I just feel really honored that people felt that my story was impactful to them, and that I, was able to help people through their journey as well, because I honestly feel like it was everybody else that helped me through the last 3 years. And so I would just, another big thank you to just everybody who has played a role in the last 3 years and more of my life. I think that there's so much that has gotten me to this point right now. And I think that I would not have been able to make it here without any of the experiences, any of the relationships, friendships, family that I've had up until this point. And I'm really just grateful for all of it. I sort of live by the everything gets you to where you're going or where you're supposed to be. Everything is just one step closer to where you're supposed to be. And I think that, everything is a learning opportunity, and everything is just getting you, that next step, but you got to really enjoy the ride as you go. And so I think that FEMBA has taught me to take the wins as they come and slow down and really just sort of appreciate it, because it is moving far too fast. And it's very bittersweet for it to be over. At least the academic piece of it. I know that all of the friendships will continue, but it's very bittersweet.
Oh, well, yeah, 11 days from now, it gets really real. You will be a lifetime member of the Double Bruin Alumni Network.
I can't wait.
Well, on behalf of Caitlin McMahon, who's doing just an incredible job as our summer spotlight guest host, and all the people who nominated you, and and all of us, appreciation from Gonzalo Freixas and Bonnie Kim and Cedric Dicker and the whole team with Femba Council. You guys, you were an extra important Femba Council leadership cadre during those town halls during COVID, when things were a little brittle. Because as you articulated it very accurately, it was a learning curve for everyone. Like, what was it, March 18th? Oh yeah, we're going to shut down tomorrow. Gonzalo basically started organizing how to do Zoom, because half the faculty had used it with hybrid and flex, half the faculty had no exposure, and it was, well, let's just get everybody all leveled up before we start spring quarter in 8 days or something crazy like that. And, and then we were just off to the races. And they say, Winston Churchill was the right person for World War II. I think Gonzalo Freixas was the right person. Like, we needed someone we needed a little Latin. We needed a little bit of dance with the moment, right? We didn't need a German Teutonic rows and columns. We needed some dancing to get through COVID. But you all, I liked how you said it. I just looked for problems I could solve. And big and small, and because nobody wanted you all not to have a great experience. And that summer of 20 was, we had a round 4 and we over admitted a little bit, and then you guys over accepted, and all of a sudden we've got this class that we have no precedent with, you know, quantity, quality. You guys were just in a league of your own, and God bless ITSE. God bless ITSE. We all of our hats are off to ITSE as your program manager, and you know, it was a lot. So your partnership, you all, you know, the Femba Council steadies through all 3 generations, all 3 years of your year. Thank you for your servant leadership, because it, you know, and you still have one of the highest graduation rates of any class. Like, no one quit your year. Like, not that many people quit. Femba, usually we graduate almost everyone who gets through. If you get through the first quarter, pretty much you get through. But your class, it was just like, wow, this is amazing.
I mean, we made such strong connections and relationships, even remotely. I think maybe because we had to work so hard at creating those relationships, that we really did form some strong bonds. And at that point, it's hard to walk away.
Well, I'm thrilled that we have this time capsule interview, because this will be fun. You'll look at this, you know, 10 years from now, like, hey, look at me, look where I was then, look where I am now. So
Absolutely.
all right, well, thank you. I will pause recording. We can hang out for one more second. I'll just cover a couple small things, but thanks everybody. This has been Heather Scott, one of the class of 2023 summer spotlight nominees. You met Caitlin McMahon, who conducted the interview, and we're so grateful, Heather, for your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right.